All right, today we're going to talk about hazardous tree situations and how to identify them. And there's so many, but this tree has a lot, and I thought it was a great place to start to give you guys a little bit of a experience just looking at stuff. I mean, it's so obvious almost every time the main portion of the problem. You can see this is separating. We have roots inside, and that's always a sign that this has been, this has been a situation for a long period of time. There's probably some portions of this started to decay, and as these two codominant centroleters grow, they add on more weight, reaching toward the light, and they start to pull each other apart and they separate. So they've separated. That's what we get here. For evidence that there's root issues, I'll look around and it gets pretty obvious really quick when you're having, some basal rot and some other root problems. You can even see some of the roots that were exposed or rotten, not to mention this huge conch and another huge conch over here. So it's obvious this side is having some extreme issues. Portions of this are obviously not safe, but looking at this tree and judging by the way the weight is distributed and looking at how things look, obviously this one is the one sinking away. This one's maintaining its position and is probably pretty sound. Here we can see, this bark is falling away. Once the bark falls off like this, and you see slugs in here having a tasty treat, once the bark falls away, you're pretty much sure that this is not gonna ever fix itself. It's never gonna right itself, no matter how much this, would start to heal and produce a callus. It'll never close this wound off, and this will just continue to decay, and eventually it'll be structurally unsound and the tree will just fall over. There was dead portions of this that were removed in the past. Here you can see a healthy callus. This rounded section is the tree's attempt to compartmentalize this decay inside the tree. So I think Alex Shigo coined the phrase or the acronym CODIT, C-O-D-I-T, and that's the compartmentalization of decay in trees. This tree is doing its best to compartmentalize this decay. And this is still pretty sound, and it's possible it could heal this across. I've seen stuff like this happening, but it's never gonna happen in this situation because the foundation of this portion of the tree is not going to make it. This is a big section. It's about 60 feet tall. And if we look up the tree, it points over and it's right over the edge of the house and over this power line, which is just a house drop. And just before we got started, one of the first things I'm doing is I'm cleaning up all this dog poop. Hey, I have a dog and I rarely clean up its poop. I guess I just don't care. But that's something that, we look out for, because I'm gonna be rigging out portions of this tree. I don't want to run my ropes through dog poop and then put that back in the bag and get it all over my gloves, and it's just disgusting. So we're gonna spend a little bit of time cleaning up dog poop, and that's why I always tell people, hey, if you walk into a yard, look around, and if you see a lot of dog poop, make sure that you bid accordingly. And that means add on money, because you're gonna spend some time cleaning it up unless you expect the homeowner to come out and clean it up. It's really rare that that's gonna happen. So anyway, we also have this telephone line stretching right across our work zone, and I'm holding it up so you can see it. And it was right underneath where we're gonna be working. And what I did is I just came over here. They had it propped up on a couple of little cable posts. And so instead of because this is a one-level house, instead of cutting the cable, which would be a bad idea and hard to fix, I'm just taking it off where it is on the wall. I have a toolbox. I bring screwdrivers and all different kinds of stuff, because this happens all the time. So now I've taken it down to where it connects to the house, and I've lowered the cable onto the ground. We're gonna watch out for it while we're doing the tree. Here you get a better view of what I'm gonna have to do. So now I've taken out one of the obstacles, and that's gonna make the job easier. So whenever you can, remove an obstacle, and then you're gonna have less problems. So in the industry, we're gonna call them targets, which I think is a terrible thing to call them. Why would you call it a target? I'm trying not to hit that. So anyway, we're gonna call it obstacles. So we're gonna take that out. After looking at the tree, I think this side is healthy enough to maintain itself. I think it's gonna work well. And I'll show you why I came to that conclusion. One of the things is this is a rental property, so our customer doesn't want to spend any more money than they have to. So knowing that about my customer, I'm going to try and make recommendations that I think are safe, number one. So if I don't feel it's safe, then I'm not going to do it. But if I feel it's still going to be safe, I'm not going to say, hey, let's take out all the rest of the tree, because I feel like it's healed over enough that it's going to maintain its position and probably be fine. And all of the rot issues were on the opposite side. This side doesn't have any, and all the root flare looks really good, and it is obviously not moving, so it's safe. So my recommendation in this one is we're just going to remove the part that's having a problem and maintain the part that is healthy, and we may trim it a little bit just to reduce some of the weight. It's a cherry, so it can handle it. Other portions of the problem will be these high tension power lines directly behind the tree, but they're far enough away I'm not really concerned with it, and we don't have anything going that direction. So I'm not putting anything that way, so I'm not really worried about it. I am concerned with this house drop, so I'm going to be rigging all this appropriately because it hangs way over the house drop. So I'll be rigging all this appropriately. I'm going to pick a high point of connection, put myself up in this tree, and then I'm going to spur climb this section and take out any weight as I encounter it, and then try to fall the whole top over this way. And hopefully dogs don't bark at me all day, because that's kind of annoying. But anyway, we're just talking about trees. We're talking about the steps we go through to identify, potential problems in the trees, situations that are going to become hazardous. And I wanted to point this cherry out to you guys and let you see some of those problems and let you guys figure it out for yourselves. But as you come up to the tree, obviously I always tell you to look at the base of the tree, and that's why those same things that we noticed when we walked up, that's the kind of thing that you're going to run into. So I'll check in with you guys when we get done, maybe give you guys a quick video if anything comes up in between, but this will be pretty much, pretty cut and dry. All right, see you guys. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys. I got my bag stuck. There's a branch that grows right alongside the trunk, and it just slipped behind it, and I got my bag stuck. So I can't even let it down to get it out. Fortunately, it's not that high up. I'm just gonna go up and cut it out. Got my pole saw ready and orchard ladder. Something too I want to talk about is if you're going to go off the ground at all, put your strap on your helmet. So why it's such a big deal, and you'll see even guys climbing in the tree without strapping their, it's a bad idea, because if you're up in a tree, you probably will never see this, I hope you never do, but if you fall out of a tree, one of the first things to pop off your head is your helmet. It's not really connected, and if you're freaking out and flailing, trying to grab branches and branches are hitting you, your helmet is just going to flop off of your head, and you're going to hit the ground, and it will have been pointless to even wear the helmet to begin with. For the strap to your head, it's going to stay on there, and when you do hit the ground, hopefully in a way that doesn't hurt you too bad, when you hit your head, you have that protection. And two, if you hit branches on the way down. So anytime you're getting in the tree, anytime you're going off the ground, I don't even care if it's a 5-foot orchard ladder, I would wear my helmet. Because really, as you're falling, it's really easy to knock your helmet off. When you hit your head on some concrete or something, you're going to really wish you had your helmet on. And I hope that never happens to anybody. But do, I'm going to get over here and cut this off. Two, because the whole point of all these videos is talking to people that haven't done this a lot. So when it comes to a ladder, one of the ways to be really safe is make sure it's on level ground, and you never want to be sideways to a slope. So here's the angle of my ladder. If I had a sideways slope, I would either be up and down facing the slope or going away from the slope. But either way, I would never have my ladder set up opposite of the slope. So perpendicular slope would be a bad idea. It's really easy to fall. It may be sturdy while you're starting to climb, but as soon as you get up a little ways, it's going to be really shaky and you're likely to fall off. So one of the ways to know you have a good angle, put your feet against the bottom of the ladder and stick your hands out. If you're standing up straight, you'll be able to grab onto the post. And I'm going to lean it forward just a tiny bit more and make sure I'm in a stable place. I take off the bottom, the flat portions of most of the ladders, because the way the angles work, it'll really give you a nice firm foundation when you do that. You're not likely to fall off. And I'll be using the quick extension pole system from Oregon Arboriculture, and I'm going to reach up in there and cut the branch that's holding me in place. I'll remove some of these lower ones first. Always pays to have a nice sharp pole saw. Oh yeah. Watch out from the line. And here's my bag. I'm just going to push it up out of that spot. That's not working. I don't want to cut my rope. My bag. Get that out of the way. Position. Remove my ladder. But anyway, you get the gist. I don't waste your time watching me fiddle with it. All right, so we got a connection in the tree. What I did is I utilized the pole saw to, I couldn't even get a good cut on that branch that I was wrapped around. So I got it out of there with the pole saw and used a different branch to make a connection. So we're up in here, up on this guy right here, which is a nice 4-inch diameter branch. It's real sound, real strong. This is a cherry tree. And right now we're putting on our cambium saber. It looks to me now that we're gonna probably remove this entire tree. After messing with it a little bit, just pulling on it, I could see that even this other side was not sound. And we have worked on this tree a long time ago in the past. And after seeing some of that stuff, I don't want to take the risk of this falling on somebody. So we're gonna, at the very least, reduce a lot of the weight. But I think we're probably gonna have to talk the customer into removing it. So here we're setting the line. Now a cambium saver is not necessary because we're gonna be removing the tree. But a cambium saver, as you're running your ropes, is so much more smooth. It's better for your ropes. Yeah, it takes a few minutes to set it up. This isn't a super big tree. It's only 60 feet, so it's not a huge deal, but it's gonna make a big difference. So Tyler's just getting started, but he knows how to do it now. He's learned a couple of the cool little techniques, so he's gonna set up a rope and send up our rope. Anyway, We'll check in again as we get a little bit further along, but that's all the new news is after moving this bad boy around. Hey Tyler, grab both ends real quick. Both ends of the rope, both ends, there you go. And pull on both of them, working end and the standing end, pull on both of those. Just pull hard, and so you can get the tree moving, and I'll show the viewers what we found. Move it, try to pull hard and move the whole thing. You're moving the tree. There you go. Just rock it back and forth a little bit. Now look at this. So as he rocks that back and forth, keep moving it, will ya? You can see that opening and closing. I think both sides are moving, but this side is more dangerous. And this side has way more weight. So that's why we've changed our minds, and that's why we're talking to the customer about removing both. So that's enough, man. That's what we're gonna do next. So we'll check in when we get going. So everything went according to plan. This connection kept me stable while we climbed up in here. This side's moving quite a bit, it's bowing and flexing in and out. I haven't decided yet, but for sure, we might save this side if possible, but we just can't decide. So I'm gonna look at it more and pray about it. God's gonna bless us hopefully to make the right decision. Make sure we're not salvaging something that's going to be hazardous in the future. If it's not likely to heal and maintain itself, it needs to go. A lot of people around here, pets, structures, fences, we don't want things getting destroyed, so we're going to do our best to take care of everything that we can. So that's the next thing I have to do is decide, are we saving this part or taking it out? If we decide to take it out, I'll try to get you some footage of seeing that part, but there's only 2 of us working today, so I need somebody to run in the ropes. I can't just be running cameras all day. But I'll let you see the rest of it. You can see the aftermath of a lot of that coming down. We took a major portion down just with the tagline, real gentle, and a nice big open face to make sure that I had the lean going the right direction. The branches weren't in our favor, so it had a lot of weight on this side. We had that nice big face, and Tyler's on the ground, he could see that it was coming, and so he just helped it real gentle instead of jerking. We never jerk a rope, always just keep steady, constant pressure, and that's the way to do it. But we'll check in with you again here pretty quick. All right, so our customer's a day sleeper. We've got our electric saws out, so I'll be using 540 XP, and we've got another top handle electric chainsaw. But I wanted to talk about what I'm doing now that we decided to remove this other side. I've already taken out a big section that's down on the ground right there. And what we did is I set my rope at least, so I like to go 2/3. So a minimum of 2/3, that gives you a lot of leverage. So when you're pulling, you're gonna have better leverage if your rope is connected about 2/3 out the branch. And this was a significant branch, you know, it's probably a couple 100 pounds. And it was over the shed, but it was the leading branch on the side of the lean, so it had the most weight, and the furthest out, it was causing the most potential issues. So as I move this tree around, which I think I already showed you earlier, it's moving back and forth. But now I trust the tree way more because I removed this couple of 100 extra pounds that were on the furthest outside area. And once I do that, now I feel more comfortable climbing because I'm less likely to cause the tree to fall if my, 240 pounds with gear is pulling on the tree like that. Actually, I'm probably like 260, don't tell anybody. Okay, so now I gotta take this little branch out. So I'm just gonna do false crotch rigging style here, which is pretty simple. I'm just throwing the rope over the top and connecting it here. And that makes it really easy. So I'm just gonna have guy on the ground hold this. I'm gonna cut it real slow because it's weighted out on this side, it's gonna swing my direction. As long as it clears the shed, it's all good. But to make this as simple as possible, that's why I'm doing a false crotch, not setting up a pulley. If it's heavy, this is not going to be very heavy, like maybe this will be 70 pounds or something. If it's heavy, I want to set up a pulley to protect my rope, and if we need to adjust the height of what's swinging, we might need to pick it up. You're not going to be able to pick it up when you false crotch. So false crotching is easier, but it's not always as advantageous as setting up a block. And if you have a whoopee and it's real simple, you can set up a block. I bet you if you time yourself, it might take maybe 20, 30 seconds. It's not very long. So it depends on how far out you have to go, but I just have to set up this right above it. That's what we're gonna do next. So I'm gonna bring that branch out. Just wanted to show you this. Also too, when you're learning to fall, this isn't a perfect situation. There's a little bit of a hiccup right here. I didn't completely connect and I didn't check. The more of a pivot point you have, the better your hinge is gonna operate. And you can see I'm trying to fall away from the shed. So when I saw it comes in, so first I had a nice wide bird's mouth on this type of hinge because I want to make sure I can see it as it's moving. And as I came in with my saw, I come in flat the direction that I want to go and leave a little bit of the hinge wood on the side that I want it to lean to. So now when the branch came out, it leant to the direction I wanted it to. And that's what's so important. Never cut through a hinge. If it sits back on the hinge, wait, get back up. It's not falling yet, so just keep working at it and make sure that you're gonna continue to keep your hinge wood, because cutting all the way through, if it leans back, is gonna be really dangerous. And if you don't have a hinge, you have no control. All right, we're gonna keep working. All right, so we removed that branch we were just talking about, and I removed the base of the bigger one on the front. And I noticed this big, huge piece of rebar sticking out. Actually, I noticed it earlier, but I just thought this was a good thing to talk about. So I carry a can of marking paint on the truck. Actually, there's a couple cans of marking paint. If we're ever doing any logs or anything like that, we want to make sure that we mark this kind of stuff. So right here at the base, first I'm going to point it out to all the guys, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of white right there. A lot of times I like to use orange because white, you might not notice it as much as you'd notice the orange. But I've informed the guys on the ground that there's hardware in the tree. I've marked where it was, so hopefully will remember. And shame on you homeowners for putting metal stuff in your tree. It's crazy. Like, what is the deal? The other day, some guys I know, they pulled a whole bunch of concrete out of a tree. It's like, why would you fill a cavity with concrete? Apparently it works, I don't know. I think wax would be more effective and maybe not cheaper, but something like that would be better. Anyway, back to work. All right, so I wanted to show you guys something that I use a lot, especially with false crotch type of rigging, is I've set my rope where I want my false crotch to be. And how do because I need to tip tie this branch, how do I get out there in a situation like this where the tree's having an issue and get out there and tie that off and come all the way back? Is there an easier way? And that's another situation where I like to use a pull saw. So what I'll do is use the pull saw to set the rigging line, take it down from my position with the false crotch, get a lot of extra rope. You need quite a bit to do it, right? And then set this on there on the back side. I always keep my hook on the back side of my saw so it's out of the way when I'm working with ropes. I'll extend my saw, flip over, and then reach around, get on. Yeah, this branch is mostly dead anyway. It's really good that we're doing this. Sometimes kind of hard to tell. It does have some life in it. You can see the buds, but it's practically dead. I'm just keeping my rope away from the other rope. I pull it toward me, set the line, and I know a lot of guys don't use carabiners, but these steel carabiners, I mean, they're really priceless. They're so strong. produces a really good connection. And that's it. Once the groundsman, Mr. Tyler, sets this, the tip tide, it'll swing away from me. I gotta be kind of close to it where I'm cutting. We're gonna protect it from going anywhere near the shed that's underneath it. And we're good to go. Okay, so right here I'm gonna do another false crotch situation. And I just wanted to show you this method I use for tying off the branch. So I don't have any other branches here, and if I had at least an 1.5 inch branch, or 2 inches is best, another branch, I'm not worried about this slipping off. But because I don't have that, I want to make sure that it maintains its position when this branch turns over. So I wrap it around one time, like you see there already. I've just come around the branch one time. Excuse me, let me get my camera angle for you. And then flip it over. I love these because you can open the gate with one hand, usually pretty comfy. And I'm gonna connect, and then I'm gonna dress this because it's a little loose. I wanna make sure that it's going to be really tight. So that means I want the carabiner on the back side of the branch. So it's there, like that. It's gonna pull nice and tight. It's got a nice hitch that's gonna hold itself really well. Alternatively, I could do a couple of different types of hitches. This isn't a very big branch. It's not gonna move. I'm not too worried about it, but this is at least enough to make sure that it doesn't do anything crazy. So now I'm gonna cut this and let it down over the top of this shed, and we should have just enough room, and I'll get back to you again. Alrighty. So we're at the last couple stages of taking out this cherry, and I'm just gonna show you why and what we're gonna do. Okay, so this side right here overlaps and grows in front of this other side. Because of that, this is the first one to go out, because this one will be able to fall out freely, and I'm still gonna cut it away a little bit. I'm still gonna get up here and cut off a couple of these branches just to be really safe. Small branches, especially in oak trees, man, like a red oak, they call them the barbed wire tree because they're so strong. Just a little branch can hold your weight. It's crazy, like little thin, like a pencil-sized branch. You can almost hang from it. This tree's not as strong, but it is strong, and it's real pliable and flexible. This is a cherry. But yeah, so we're gonna pull this guy out first. I'm gonna cut some of these branches, and I'm gonna set a rope about 60%, 2/3, which is pretty much 60% of the way up the tree. And then I'm gonna cut it down in here somewhere, and we're gonna fall it out right into our drop zone. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. And man, am I happy, because I never even knew this. This whole backside is really rotten. Once the birds start getting in there, this isn't healthy enough to continue. This is a pretty big hole here. There's a lot of defect, and there's no way it can heal. And because these high tension power lines are right behind me, they're about 10 feet away from the tree, not even. They're comfortably 10 feet away from where I am. That is a problem. That is something that I'm gonna consider, and that's a part of the danger that I assess before I even get in the tree. But I feel comfortable that this tree leans enough the right direction that I need to fall, as long as I fall the right one first, which is that one that grows in the front. Take out the one closest to my drop zone first, and then the second one. I should be fine. What I'll do is when we get done with this section, I'll come down and I'll show you what we've done, but I won't be able to show you the action. There's just two of us today. So let me get back to work, and then I'll check back in with you probably once we're following the last few sections of the wood. All right. So I promised not to bug you guys again, but I've changed my mind. This one, because of the back lean over the wires, ended up not being able to fall forward without cutting a lot more branches, and I didn't want to take a chance of any of these smaller branches catching it up and pulling, twisting it or doing anything weird. So I'm taking this one out first. I cleared that branch that was in front, and now I'm gonna take this one out first. This decayed one. But this is something I really like to do. So you probably see me climb. I use a unisender, and I really like it. I like that it goes on and off. It's real comfortable. It's really easy to manipulate. At first, it's really jerky because you don't know how to use it. But once you start to know how to use it, I just grab the rope above it as I do it, and I use the bottom of my hand to flip the toggle that releases it, and it's super smooth. It's just the way you grab it. You grab it at the right angle, it's super smooth. You've got your other hand underneath it. But what I like to do right here is I've got a wire core lanyard on this side connected to my harness. I've got my extendable rope lanyard connected to my harness. This is a really stable position, so if anything weird happens, I feel really comfortable. I like that. I like to feel super comfortable. I don't want to be all shaky. But the other thing I like to do, once I start getting to the more dangerous parts, especially when I'm chunking out, is I've already taken out my cambium saver, obviously, that was connected here. Then I put this back together around my carabiner. I flip that around the tree and lock it back to my rope, and this is my climb line. And I've choked everything up, so it's only got, 18 inches of movement. So I choked up all this stuff. But now, if something bad happens, I've got I can't depend on somebody who's brand new to be able to help me. If anything happens to me up here, I got to be able to get down. So hopefully I can. So if I cut my arm or my hand or something like that, I should be able to get down just using this. So if anything happens, I can release these and I can slowly lower myself down to a safe position. And that's something that I find to be really comforting and makes me feel safer. When you feel safer, you work better, I think. So if you see me going overboard on safety, it's because it's safer. All right. Well, it's very obvious now that we made the right decision. Considerable internal decay. I mean, that is, if you can push your finger into it like that, as you can see the outline here, a good 2/3 of this side, well, let me back that up, 1/3 of this side is completely gone. A little bit less of this side, and it did seem like it was more healthy and likely to survive, but in hindsight, we made the right decision. Taking out this other side, there's no way it could have survived very long. You can see this decay is working its way back. This is the only real living tissue right here and here. So without an ability to heal itself, which it wouldn't have been able to, this is, you can see how punky that is. It wouldn't have made it. So made the right decision.